Rush Limbaugh stole the show tonight at a Washington gathering of conservative activists. Let's talk about Rush, Republicans, and the political right with two people who watched his speech very closely. Lenny McAllister is in Los Angeles. He's a blogger and Republican activist. And Edward Espinoza is a Democratic consultant. He joins us from Washington tonight. Good to see you both.
Good evening.
Good to be here.
Lenny, let's start with you. Republicans claim to be the party of inclusion. There's a lot of talk about adding diversity. But if you look at that straw poll for the people who they are considering to be the next leader of the Republican Party, the front runner in 2012, the only minority on there is Louisiana Governor Bobby Jindal. So how do you explain this?
Well, one thing that I can explain, I'm out here in Los Angeles, and just as we're having CPAC, you also have Michael Steele out here for the State of the Black Union with Tavis Smiley. I think that speaks just as much to the inclusion that the Republican Party is trying to bring into the fold, just as much as Bobby Jindal being second in this straw poll. What you're going to find is a culture development within the Republican Party where the inclusion movement will come about. But just as we can't expect the world from Barack Obama over the first 40 days of his presidency, you cannot expect these new changes within the Republican Party as far as inclusion to come with less than 40 days from Chairman Michael Steele. So I think it's an evolution. I think Chairman Steele being here in Los Angeles was a great first step. And between what's happened in Washington and some of the groundbreaking he's trying to make here in LA, I think you'll start to see that inclusion come more into the fold as conservatives try to stick to their principles.
What is the party, though, actively doing to try and attract more diversity? What do they have to do?
Well, one of the first things they have to do is be accountable to the past. We have to sit there and be honest with the minority communities and the urban communities. It's not just about black people, it's about urban communities, and say, look, we have not engaged the problems of urban communities over the last 15 to 20 years. Some would say upwards of 30 years effectively. We have to admit that. We have to go back in the communities, have honest conversations, not be afraid to hear the criticism, take notes, listen, and show that we're still Americans, even if we want to show a different way of doing things other than creating programs and throwing money after problems when it's going to take more people power than money power to solve the problems that we're facing in America, in particular the urban environments.
Okay, let's bring Edward in. Edward, I want to roll a soundbite. I want you to take a listen to this. This is Limbaugh talking bipartisanship, and then we'll get your reaction to it.
Bipartisanship occurs only after one other result, and that is victory. In other words, let's say, as conservatives, liberals demand that we be bipartisan with them in Congress. What they mean is we check our core principles at the door, come in, let them run the show, and then agree with them. That's bipartisanship to them. To us, bipartisanship is them being forced to agree with us after we have politically cleaned their clocks and beaten them. And that has to be what we're focused on.
So, Edward, is bipartisanship even possible? We certainly didn't see it with the stimulus vote.
You know, the whole idea of bipartisanship doesn't have to do with Democrat or Republican. It has to do with leaders doing their job to pull this country out of the troubled waters that we're in right now. And it's not about bipartisanship or Democrat or Republican. It's about leadership. And we need to stop the gamesmanship and move forward. And that starts with the Republican leaders we've got in Congress right now, Mitch McConnell and John Boehner, working to implement this plan that we've just passed to stimulate the economy and get things rolling again.
All right. Edward Espinoza, Lenny McAllister, thanks so much for your time tonight. We appreciate it.